All right, ladies and gentlemen, today on Cliff's Notes, you are going to be blown away by a guy who's going to rewrite the sales records for real estate. Stay tuned next on Cliff's Notes. Real estate agents, are you struggling with the day-to-day grind, dialing for dollars, putting in hours of floor time with little to show for it? Are you looking for tips, tricks, and tactics to accelerate your career as an agent that will have you closing more homes, working with more clients, and earning more money than ever before? Hi, my name's Cliff Freeman, and I've spent the past 2 decades of my real estate career running one of the top brokerages in DFW and personally coaching over 1,000 high-performing real estate professionals across North America. I created this podcast to share the strategies and tactics you need to explode your real estate business. I guarantee it. Yes, I guarantee it. Boy, we had a shoot up here for D Magazine. When was that? Monday, right?
Monday, yep.
Monday, and we got a treat for you guys coming up at the end of the show. We've got a little bit of I guarantee it you're going to love here. Hey, Trelvis.
Yes, sir.
This gentleman over here on my left, you've met superstars before, right?
I have. I met a couple.
Yeah, you probably know. You met Jay-Z a couple times and some of his, right?
I met JP. That's his cousin.
Oh, JP.
Yeah, that's his cousin.
Was he driving an Uber? Yeah, is that it? Okay.
He was.
Yeah, I know him. We're going to introduce Andre here in just a minute, but I have some other breaking news I heard while we were getting ready for the show today. Did I actually hear that Mike Tyson is going to get in the ring again?
You did. You did with Roy Jones Jr., as a matter of fact. Yeah, that should be a good one.
Get the body bag ready.
Get the body bag ready. What's for who?
For Roy Jones.
Yeah. I'd say get his ears ready is probably what.
Oh gosh, I'm telling you, Mike Tyson is in really good shape. Like today, right now.
Is he?
He's in his prime.
Man.
He's Optimus Prime right now.
He would demolish me.
Ring with him.
Exactly.
For sure.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
Andre, yeah, I'd say, basketball, you could probably whip him, right?
Yes, I have a chance, but not in the ring.
Yeah,
not in the ring.
Well, I don't know what the odds in Vegas are. I don't even want to take a look, but I'm sure if it's on pay-per-view, I'll be in front of the TV to watch whatever happens.
Sure.
So, yeah. Hey, it sure is good to be here today, back in the studio twice in 1 week, and I want to thank all of our agents who could make it to the shoot. We've got a wonderful 2-page layout coming up soon in D Magazine. I can't announce anything other than that, just that we're going to have an ad in there. And super excited about that, but I'm even more excited today because, audience, we have got somebody that you're going to want to keep an eye on. And you saw, if you read the little pre-marketing to the show, this guy has got a resume that would be just solid gold. And so without further ado, let me welcome Andre Polk to the show. Andre, welcome. Glad to have you today,
Hey, Cliff, thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be here and looking forward to today's discussion.
Well, I'll tell you, folks, we're going to have a lot of writer-downers, so get your pen out, your paper out. And C3, great to have you here again today. And I know you're headed out of town this evening, but you'll be back in short order, so we're wishing you a safe trip down to Waco.
Yep.
Right? Waco.
Yep.
Nice. So, and then we're headed to Scottsdale after the show next week. So, all right. So, Andre Polk, what a story, friends. I got to tell you, Andre joined the team probably about 3 weeks ago. He's already got a couple of closings already in the pipeline. But let's take a step back, Andre. We at Cliff's Notes here, we really like to sort of pull the curtain back and let people get to know the person. We've got an audience of realtors and real estate agents, people who want to be in the business, and just normal everyday people that watch the show. But I think one of the things that we really do successfully that people enjoy is to get to know you. So if you would, kind sir, take us back a little bit. Take us back to the early days, back when you were growing up. I mean, you grew up here in Dallas, right?
Yes. So I grew up, born and raised right here in Dallas. So I'm a native kid. I grew up in the inner city, in the southeast side of Dallas, which is called Pleasant Grove. So I grew up, your normal blue-collar, working-class family. Wasn't necessarily, I would say, poverty-stricken or poor, but we definitely didn't have much. So that's where I grew up. That's where I was born and bred. That's where I'm from. I'm definitely proud of it because I look back over my life and where I'm at today, and it's definitely something that I take pride in.
All right, so let's put that in perspective. You said you weren't poverty-stricken, but what kind of car did you drive when you were 15?
I didn't have a car when I was 15.
Okay.
Yeah, so I actually did not get my first car until my sophomore year in college.
Okay.
At Texas A&M Commerce, formerly known as East Texas State University, which is about 60 miles east of Dallas.
Okay.
So my first car was actually my father's SUV that he passed down to me. It was one of the old white Broncos. And I know when we hear about the Bronco, right? I mean, it's not any affiliation with OJ, but yeah. So my first car was actually in college, my sophomore year, and I had a white Bronco. So
it was a white Bronco.
It was a white Bronco.
Okay, all right.
It was.
But it was old enough that it had already passed away by the time it got passed down.
Right. Okay. Right.
Hey, Cliff, I have to jump into. I'm actually from Pleasant Grove. I didn't know that.
No way.
Small world.
Yeah, small world. 8th grade at Spruce High School, class of 2001. And prior to that, my middle school, I went to Freddie Florence. Elementary, I went to William M. Anderson. So yeah, Pleasant Grove, born and raised.
Well, you guys might have, what year did you graduate, Travis?
Well, I graduated in 2010.
Okay.
9 years.
Okay. So yeah, you didn't weren't on the playground together at the same time.
Exactly.
Right.
Probably not.
All right.
Yeah.
But Andre blazed a trail for you there.
Sure. He set the standard. I appreciate it.
He sure did. So what were some of the things at that age? You have how many siblings?
So I only have one sibling.
Okay.
I have a younger brother by the name of Terrence, if he's watching. We're 6 years apart.
6 years. You're younger or older?
I'm older. So yeah, I have a younger
so
sibling.
You had a little bit of responsibility on your shoulders growing up.
Absolutely.
The older
Absolutely.
child.
Being the older brother,
making
sure that I'm rearing my younger brother to come up in the right way and stay away from the wrong crowd, and just trying to be an example for him.
Tell me about your folks. How was it? What was it like being raised by your folks?
Yeah, so fortunately for me, unlike many people that grew up in the part of town where I grew up, I was raised in a two-parent home, and so my mother and my father, they were both married. Well, both married. They were married, and as I mentioned, they both work hard. They come from humble beginnings, from a small town, both in South Texas. And so growing up, it was always about being respectful, making sure that you're setting goals for yourself, and never giving up, but always striving to improve and better yourself.
Okay. Were they spare the rod, spoil the child people?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So discipline was definitely something that was big in our home, right? So when it comes to being disrespectful and not giving respect to elders or just adults in general, that's definitely not something that my parents that they stood for sure.
So number one writer downer is core values. Okay.
Absolutely.
At what age do you feel like you really developed your set of core values?
I would say for me it was very early on. I would say right around the time when I entered junior high school, right? Because during that age, you're walking into your adolescent years, and you're starting to want to be like your peers and trying to figure things out. But fortunately, I had a good upbringing and a lot that was instilled to me from an early age, as far as the people that you hang around, the things that you get yourself involved with, to where I think that's the age where things really begin to start to develop for me, as far as not being opposed to being different, right? Because that's one thing that I often tell my children now is you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And growing up, being separate from your peers, but also not being a total outcast, right? But just being different. I think that's when it really started to change for me, is during my middle school years.
And so, was your family religious?
I would say yes, they were religious, but I wouldn't say devout Christians. So I grew up, with my parents. They grew up going to church. So being exposed to Christianity and to religion and to Bible teaching, early on was something that wasn't foreign to me. Because growing up, I actually started my first couple of years in school at private school, and I often look back on that and say that was actually the foundation. It laid the foundation for my faith, my belief, having integrity, and doing things according to biblical principles. I think it started there, as far as giving me that foundation, but also as I grew older as well.
And at what age were you saved?
So that's funny you ask, because I would say that I made a decision, to walk with Christ, I would say at the age of 16. But, like many people, you grow up and you go into your teenage years and then to your young adult years, you're going into college and you drift away and drift apart. And I was a heathen in college, right? I was a womanizer, fraternity guy, and all that stuff. And I would say when I really was born again, when I was truly born again, was in June of 2004.
Yeah.
And it was a guy that I'm still close friends with today. Invited me to a Bible study, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'll go, whatever.
Yeah.
But when I went, my life hasn't been the same since.
Yeah.
And that's when I knew it was at that point that I was truly born again.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I had a country preacher one time ask, "How do you know when you're saved?" And we thought about it, and you know what he said? He said, "Well, if you is what you was, you ain't."
That's right.
Okay.
That's correct.
So that's how you know.
That's
right?
that's how you know.
Okay.
That's how you know, because all of my desires changed. Right, the things that I was involved in changed. People that I hung around, that changed. So yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
Right,
You know, if you is if.
So those were your foundational years.
Correct.
Right? Now you had some talent as a young man that actually helped get you into college, right?
Correct.
And tell us about those years.
Yeah, so growing up, I've always played two sports. I always played basketball and I always played football. But the older that I got, I saw that my love started to develop more for basketball. I was pretty good at football, played quarterback all my years, but I really started to develop more of a passion and love for basketball.
You had the height to see over the line.
I did.
Right?
Definitely,
Yeah.
I did. I played two sports growing up, but it was obviously in high school when I said, okay, I just want to focus and concentrate on basketball. Was able to develop my skills and fortunately get a scholarship to college at Texas A&M Commerce.
Okay, and so you played high school. Is that what level is that? D1, D2?
So Texas A&M Commerce is actually D2, Division
okay.
Division
Yeah.
2 Lone Star
All right.
Conference.
How did you guys do? Did you guys do?
We were okay. We
Yeah.
made it to the playoffs 2 out of the 4 years that I played,
Okay.
and the other years we weren't so good.
That's all right. Yeah.
Wasn't so good. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, do you remember what your best game was?
My best game actually was against Tarleton State, and I remember scoring 37 points, had like 8 assists, and a pretty good, decent amount of rebounds as well. So 38 points from my offensive standpoint was the best game I've ever had.
That's stiff, yeah.
Yeah.
Was that game videotaped? Did you?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. I
Okay.
actually have it in my archives at home.
Ah,
This is
nice.
definitely something that I
And
like to
you'll
go
have to
back and
show us
show my
one
museum.
children,
Yeah.
right?
Hey, show me one time. I'd love to see that.
Yeah. So as my children
Right.
are getting into sports, that's definitely something that I like to pull back out of the archives and show them, hey,
That's
look how
cool.
good
Yeah.
your dad was.
So
kind of
well,
thing.
that's awesome. I mean, a talented athlete. How'd you do in school? How were your grades?
So my grades are okay. I will be honest. So I wasn't, a stellar student athlete. I made the dean's list once, and
Okay.
to make the dean's list, you just need a 3.0 GPA. So I graduated with a 2.8 because, as I mentioned, my first couple of years of college, I was just a party animal.
Distracted a little bit.
I was just distracted, man.
Yeah.
And again, once I got born again, when I truly committed my life to Jesus Christ, my whole perspective on things changed as far as wanting to actually graduate, and not just say that I attend college, but actually graduate. And I had to maintain my grades at a certain level to play, right? So,
right.
I graduated 2.8, so I wouldn't say I was an excellent,
Okay.
student athlete
No,
or student,
it's-
but
hey, that's I
I got
know a
the
lot
degree.
of people that graduated with 2.8s. That doesn't have any correlation necessarily to how much money you're going to make.
That's
or how
true.
successful you're going to be.
yeah,
Correct.
that's correct.
So don't worry about that. But there was some point in your life, and was it during college where you really developed that quest for additional knowledge? When did you decide you wanted to get your MBA?
So actually, I finished my MBA 2 years ago.
Oh, okay.
So an MBA was always a personal goal that I had. It wasn't necessarily something that I was seeking to acquire to climb up the corporate ladder. It was just always a personal goal that I established for myself, and also as an example for my children to look up and aspire to.
Oh, that's awesome.
Attain high levels of education.
Okay.
And so I completed my MBA 2 years ago in November of 2018, and
Wonderful.
it was, I would say, when I hit the age of 30, when I say,
Okay.
okay, this is something that's been on the back burner for a while. when are you going to actually do it?
Yeah.
And so I took my time completing the degree. Fortunately, I was able to finish it 2 years ago.
That's awesome.
Congratulations. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. So, well, let's don't get too far from getting right out of college, because when you get out of college, now, if you read, you've been with some stellar organizations, stellar companies.
Yeah, I have.
I mean, it reads like the cream of the cream of the, the S&P 100. I mean, you've been with some of the best tech companies in the world, right?
Correct.
Your first stop was at IBM, right?
Correct.
Did you read a book there called Question-Based Selling?
No, I haven't. I have
okay.
had, so the sales methodology that IBM always taught in IBM Global Sales School was insight selling.
Okay.
Or spin selling.
Spin selling
by Neil Rackman.
Yeah, I got that one too. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was during.
Write that down. Spin selling
for sure. That's a good one.
Yep.
Yeah. So it was during that period of time where I really began to hone my sales skills and be more of a consultant when it comes to interacting with enterprises and customers, rather than just being seen as a sneaky snake oil sales guy.
Right, sure.
Right, being more of a consultant.
The typical real estate agent, right?
I mean, right.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to
Sorry,
be more
I didn't mean that. No, I really did mean that.
Yeah, no,
because you have to be more of a a trusted advisor, right? You have to be able to give your customers the confidence to be able to trust you. They need to be able to see that you're competent, that you know what you're talking about, and that you have their best interests in mind.
Exactly.
Yeah, you always say they got to know you, they got to like you, and they got to trust you.
Know, like, and trust. That's it.
That's correct.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
For sure. And IBM has got one of the best sales training programs in the business. No question about
for sure.
it. Yeah. Okay, so you did a little stint at IBM, and were you in enterprise sales back then?
Yes.
Okay.
So all throughout my career, I've been in enterprise software sales, and so basically what I've been doing for the last 10 years prior to doing doing real estate is, being responsible for managing the end-to-end relationship between the companies that I work for and our clients. Okay. So basically, my responsibilities were twofold. One, I'll say that my primary focus was to ensure that our customers were maximizing the current investments with our company. And in addition to that, I would say that my second responsibility was around partnering with our customers to make sure that we were strategically aligned to what their growth initiatives were, and being able to identify solutions that align to what their objectives were and positioning our products.
I think they were off by a digit on your GPA. He's at least a 3.
Yeah, so obviously, the older and more mature that I became, and when I actually sought to obtain my MBA, I was a real student, right? So I graduated with my MBA with a 3.8 GPA.
Nice.
So that's definitely something that I'm proud of. Pat myself on the back with that.
There you go.
Awesome.
So I'll have to look back with some regret and just wonder, how much more of a better student I could have been in my undergraduate years, and probably could have graduated with the 3.0.
Well, you know what? You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, Andre.
Unfortunately, you can't.
It's part of growing up, right?
But that's all right.
Yeah.
I mean, your legacy, you leave it much further down. It's what you do. Your last chapter is probably one of your most important, so don't worry about that. But but you're obviously now. So IBM led you. From IBM, you went directly to
Oracle.
To Oracle, Larry Ellison's company. I asked you before the show if you'd been on his yacht. And you didn't make that cut, but
unfortunately I didn't get there.
Right.
Yeah, unfortunately I didn't get there. Yeah. So out of IBM, I was approached by a recruiter. So Oracle during this time was really looking to start a new organization within the company, kind of like a well-funded startup within
enterprise
Oracle.
or
for enterprise sales.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I was part of what they called or titled internally as the enterprise growth accounts.
Got it.
So these were all of the accounts within Oracle that had zero to little spend with the company at all, if in any, and no relationships. Right. I vividly remember walking into a customer meeting when I was at Oracle, and the CIO walked into the meeting with some of his, direct reports and said, "Hey, this is funny that we're meeting with Oracle because we haven't met with these guys in 3 years, and this is the first time that we met with them without an attorney." Right, so that was just to give you an understanding of the kind of accounts that we were responsible for turning around.
It's like the old neighborhood, huh?
I mean, man, it was tough. It was a challenge because these people hated Oracle, and so they said, "Hey, let's develop a team to see if we can drum some business up and get something going." Yeah. And fortunately, although the group as a whole didn't attain the expectations that senior leadership had for us as a group. Me individually, personally, I did pretty well, right? I was able to develop relationships at these accounts that hated us. I was able to get some quick wins and to reestablish trust and put Oracle in a good light with them again, to want them to be able to spend money with us.
All right.
But unfortunately, that group was dissolved,
Yeah.
and so that's when I made a transition into the
Yeah.
company.
So just for the audience benefit, because I have a little experience with Oracle, we almost partnered with them on a deal I was doing a long time ago. But in order to even get Oracle to return a phone call, the minimum, the minimum piece of product you can buy from them, they starts out at 7 figures, right? So it's $1 million to get them to, like, if you want to
Sounds
implement their
about right.
database or something like that.
Yep.
It's probably more than that now. But,
Yeah, absolutely.
But back in 2000, at 19, I was .com. That's when I raised all that money. But we looked at Oracle as doing $1 million, $1 million. So what Andre's talking about here, this is not chump change. You're out
Not at
calling
all.
on big corporations.
Absolutely.
This is the little guy from, not the little guy. He's what? How tall are you anyway?
I'm 6'5".
6'5".
Yeah, 6'5".
6'5". Okay.
Yeah.
So the tall guy from Pleasant Grove. Now, here he is in the mainstream technology, Silicon Valley type stuff, and he's crushing it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you crushed it at IBM.
Yeah.
You crushed it at Oracle.
Yeah.
And where'd you go from there? You went to Microsoft.
Yeah, so
right?
from IBM to Oracle, then from Oracle I made a transition into Microsoft.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
so at Microsoft I was an account executive, and similar to what I mentioned before, I was responsible for managing the end-to-end relationship.
Okay.
But an account executive at Microsoft is a huge responsibility, unlike Oracle and IBM. I mean, because with Microsoft, man, they have such a broad technology portfolio of products
Right.
that you're responsible for selling, and you have to sell all of it.
Right,
I mean,
right.
from the hardware to the software to the services,
Oh gosh, yeah.
customer satisfaction, working with partners. I mean, it was a very long list of responsibilities that you had to make sure that you would stand on top of, for sure.
Okay. And then after Microsoft, it was, everybody knows Google,
Absolutely, Google.
right?
Yeah.
Wonderful company.
For
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Google is a great company, and when you're on the outside looking in, you hear things about Google as far as their culture, their environment. And we even seen the movie. I'm pretty sure some of you have seen the movie, the Internship.
Yeah.
And you see how things are at the headquarters in the campus, and you think it's just that's fake and that's not really how it is, but it's really like that. It's really like that. It's not hype. It's not something that's just made up. The environment and the culture really is like that. And by far, I would say Google is the best company that I've worked at, by far.
So we talk about culture a lot in real estate. I kind of want to transition. This is a good point to kind of just do a segue here over to real estate and talk about how important culture is. You made a decision recently to come join our team, and we're very excited to have you here, have you on board. I think you're going to rewrite the books on the Cliff Freeman Group, and you'll be out doing the Polk Group in less than 2 years.
Look forward to that for sure.
But let's talk a little bit about how culture can really take a company to the next level. What is it? What did you? Because all of these companies you worked at had a very unique culture, and they probably all felt different. Okay, what were some of the best aspects of the culture out of all those 4 companies that you thought really just got them to the next level?
Yeah, so I'm a firm believer, and we probably have heard the term that says that a company's greatest asset is their employees, and I truly believe that. So the one thing that differentiates each company from the other is how they treated their employees. What were you doing to retain the employees and the talent that you have in your company? And what kind of a voice or a platform do you give them to actually create change within the culture and ultimately within the company? I would say at most of the companies that I work for, and with Google, I would say being the best, the one thing that often stands out is the inclusion. And actually, as I mentioned, giving each person a voice to actually create change, having access to leadership, not being afraid or feeling like if you say a certain thing that you would have like a check by your name to say, okay, look out for this person because but they actually ask you to challenge the status quo and to think outside of the box, and that's definitely something that's accepted. It's definitely something that's embraced, and I think that's the reason why companies that continue to make leaps and bounds in industry, that's how they do it.
So and Google was a very disruptive company.
Absolutely.
In a lot of places.
Correct.
And their disruption continues.
Correct.
I mean,
The innovation.
They're shaking
is awesome.
some industries apart, right? What was it? So you've been in real estate 14 months.
Correct.
And were you looking to make a change a month ago? What got your attention about what we do and about EXP that made you want to look under the hood?
I think it goes to what you mentioned earlier about the disruption and the business model that EXP has within the real estate industry. Because I definitely believe that the model that EXP has is on the very cusp of what the industry is transitioning to as time progresses. And to be ahead of that curve right now in its beginning stages, in the infancy, I think is something that was compelling to me. Also, the way that EXP leverages technology, and in addition to being able to maximize your earnings with the profit sharing capability opportunities that are afforded to real estate agents at EXP, those are some of the things that I think gives EXP definitely a competitive advantage, head and shoulders beyond any other brokerage.
Right. So you said profit share, you meant revenue share. We don't want to be confused with another company out there.
Revenue share, correct.
It does profit share. This is revenue share off the top line.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's unpack that a little bit.
Okay.
You've been here for just a few short weeks now, and right in the middle of COVID. You and I never even met personally until when?
Today.
Until a few hours ago.
Yeah,
right?
a couple of hours ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that didn't matter, did it?
Not at all. Not at all. I know that like you said, we met a couple of hours ago, but when I met you, didn't feel like we were strangers at all.
Not at all.
Because ever since joining EXP, I've had numerous calls with you and Trey and other members on our extended team that made me feel right at home, and it was a smooth transition for me coming from another brokerage, and I feel right at home, and it's definitely a great fit for me. I'm definitely excited to be here, and I'm looking forward to continue contributing to the success of the team for sure.
Okay, so you got into real estate because probably the reason why most people do, they want their own business, they want to have their own hours, and they want the promise of untold riches, right?
Correct.
You weren't succeeding at a high level at your previous brokerage.
Correct.
What are your plans now for the next couple of years at EXP? Have you increased your vision for your real estate career since we met?
Absolutely. So I would actually say when I look at someone like yourself, right? Someone that has a successful team of agents and someone that's big on mentoring, that's big on coaching, that's definitely the same goals that I have. So my goal is ultimately, as we kind of discussed earlier, is to see this as a MBA in real estate, right? On how to effectively build a business and create wealth for yourself, but also in turn help other people achieve their goals.
Right.
Because I'm a firm believer that if you are helping other people achieve their goals, then your goals are going to automatically be achieved by default.
Right.
And so that's some of the things that attracted me to your group specifically, and those are definitely the aspirations and career goals that I have while being here at EXP.
Okay, I want to talk a little bit more about the importance of coaching and mentoring. You played semi-pro basketball. If you were in Germany, it's pro basketball, right?
Correct.
But overseas.
Correct.
And you played basketball you started young. In order to play basketball, you have to be on a team. Well, I mean, you don't have to.
It's
but
team sport,
you're on a team, and that team has a coach. Right. How important, now that you've been in real estate for over a year, how important do you see coaching and mentoring to be successful?
Oh, it's critical. I really believe that without it, there's no way for you to succeed. And that's why we see in our industry so many agents, they get their license, they get to a brokerage, but after a year, they're no longer in the business. And I firmly believe that's because they didn't have good coaching, they didn't have good mentorship, or they probably didn't seek after it. And that's another thing that I enjoy about EXP as well, is that you don't have to go and seek mentorship. They automatically assign you with an army of mentors that you can learn under.
Right.
And someone to take you under their wing, to show you the ropes, to show you best practices, which are all things that I think that are critical when it comes to being successful.
Yeah, and especially being part of the group, our group, we go the extra level. We've got the licensing agreement with Verl Workman, which I know you're going to be looking into that program. We've got a great relationship with Workman Success Coaching. And for those of you who don't know, many of you know that I've been a coach for about 12 years now in real estate and have helped hundreds of agents and still coach some. I've got great friendships with folks that, we've just consistently been able to double their business. At some point it gets a little harder when you start, doing that. But, the fact that EXP is that type of growth-oriented platform where somebody like you can come in, have bigger desires and dreams, and then have access to the tools, the best of breed. We don't have a lot of, we have some. We've got Verbella, which is our cloud campus, and we've got EXP Enterprise, but also in terms of being able to get to market quickest, we chose best of breed software in order to, like KB Core and other things like SkySlope. So EXP's got a good mix. So you were attracted by this culture, because culture is one of those things that's an intangible, right?
That's right.
I mean, if you go try to measure culture, there's no instrument that you have where you stick it in the meat and it tells you the temperature, right? So culture is one of those things where, I mean, gosh, man, there are people who would take a bullet for Apple and for Google and things like that, Harley Davidson, all those companies you worked for, but it really is an intangible. What about this? How important, because we talked about you forming your core values at an early age, how important are core values that are consistent and in alignment with your core values in terms of you being able to succeed?
I think it's very important because, as we kind of discussed earlier, that my faith is, it compels me to be who I am. It propels me to operate with integrity, with excellence, with trust, having my customers, best interests in mind and not my own, and not just a commission check for me. Obviously, we like the commission check, but at the end of the day, it's about you being able to provide your clients with excellent service. And there's no way to do that if you don't have a good foundation of core values and something that you believe in that keeps you grounded, it keeps you settled, because without it, you're prone to take bribes, you're prone to, be easily swayed in the wrong direction. And that's not something that, that should be taking place within our industry. For
no,
sure.
When you're managing the sale of the largest asset that most 90% of people are ever going to have in their lives, there's no place for that. That's exactly right.
That's right.
Wow, that's incredible. There's something that we were going to kind of hold back here is a little bit of it's not a secret, but I promised that we would share something with the audience that they didn't know about you. And I would imagine that most of the folks watching today don't know that you also lead a congregation. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I was actually ordained back in January of 2011. And so, ever since, I began my relationship with Christ, I've been adamant around, acquiring biblical knowledge to be able to teach others, to be able to guide and instruct other people. And so currently right now, me and my wife, well, obviously pre-COVID, we've been serving in a church in Louisville by the name of Christ Freedom Church. So if you're ever in the Louisville area, feel free to stop by if and when, things get back to normal. But yeah, so definitely, being that pastoral kind of component is very important, because it transitions over well when it comes to real estate and caring for other people's needs.
Right.
Because that's definitely something that's what I'm passionate about.
All right. So we're running out of time. I told you this was going to go fast, but let's see if we can lay some good nuggets on some realtors. Now you've scratched and clawed your way through your first year and a half of real estate. What have you learned? What advice can you share with our listeners today about what to do that first year? What would you do differently, and what would you suggest that they do?
I would say aligning yourself with a good mentor, because at my previous broker, I didn't have that. I was just kind of on my own trying to figure things out. And when I had questions, I had to reach out to multiple people before I could find an answer. So I would say, number one, being able to get with the brokerage, and specifically I would say EXP, that will arm you with good mentors, good coaching, good people that's going to give you advice and show you the ropes, but also too someone that is good at leveraging technology, because you mentioned earlier as far as speed to market is something that's very important, especially when you have home buyers and home sellers. You know, when they're out searching for things about their home, they want to answer immediately, and they want to be able to contact someone immediately.
Internet time.
Yeah. And that also, kills deals, right?
Yeah.
So I think being able to leverage the technology that we have here is very important, and I think it's something that's very attractive to realtors, or at least should be. And also marketing and exposure. Those are the things that I would have done different.
Right. And go back and tell me again, that zero moment of truth, does that come from one of your companies, the ZMont? Google, right? Zero moment of truth. When did you have that zero moment of truth that you were built for real estate?
I would say actually 3 years ago. And I would say that's one of the regrets that I have, is that I didn't get into real estate and got my license prior to when I did.
Okay.
Right, because real estate has always been something that was an interest of mine, that I was passionate about. As I mentioned, being able to create, autonomy for yourself and flexibility, and being able to maximize your earnings on all things that, attracted me to the real estate industry. To say, you know what, I want to just go ahead and seriously pursue this.
Yeah. What are your best friends? What one word would your best friend use to describe you?
I would say loyal. Also efficient. I would say I'm highly efficient in getting things done.
Okay.
I'm self-motivator, self-determined. I'm a self-starter. You don't have to motivate me and tell me to get things done. That's
You write
things
this
that
down
all
out there.
Those are
I'm
all
telling
things
you.
that are innate within
I'm
me,
telling you.
and have
All
to
right.
be innate within
All right.
within the person.
On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to mention something. I want you to rate yourself.
Okay.
Time management.
9.
What do we need to do to get you a 10 plus? All right, we'll work on that. I'm taking notes.
Yeah.
What about implementation?
10.
10. Okay. So everything in the last 30, if you listen to nothing else in this show today, everything that just came out of Andre's mouth the last 30 seconds is your key to success in real estate. I guarantee it. Okay.
He guarantees it? Yes.
I guarantee it. Yes, I promise you. I told you this was going to go fast,
right?
And we're at the end of the show.
It's been
All
good.
right. Do you have any final words for our audience today, Andre? Anything I didn't ask you that I should have?
I would say one thing that we didn't discuss, but I think that's very important for people to know, is identify your why, and identify what is your reason for getting out of bed every day. And personally, I know for me, it is fear of regressing, fear of going back to what I come from, right?
Okay. That's a powerful motivator.
Yeah, it definitely is. Although I'm grateful for where I come from, at the same time, I don't want to go back there, right? And so I always have it in the back of my mind, a healthy fear of being broke again, not having enough, barely making it. And that's the one thing that keeps me hungry.
This is pure gold.
It keeps me on fire.
A healthy fear
of
being broke again.
Absolutely.
It's a healthy fear. It's like fearing God. That's a healthy fear.
That's right.
Right.
Okay? But a healthy fear of being broke again, I promise you, that is why you are going to be at the top of the top here at the Cliff Freeman Group. I can guarantee that, too. Put your money on it. All right. Well, I hate to say this, but we are done for the week, Andre. I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. We are so excited that you're on the team with a great group of folks here, one of our new partners, and we just can't wait to stand beside you and support you, love on you, and help you get where you want to be. So we're all here, man. It is one for all and all for one.
We'll definitely have to do a 6-month update.
We're going to do a little
Absolutely.
6-month checkup from the neck up. Yep, when we get a little further down the road. Trelvis, my good friend, so you're going to put your money on Tyson? Is that what I hear?
I think so.
Yeah?
I think that's where my dollar's going, man.
I think that's a safe bet.
Well, at least, I feel bad about sports, but I really got disappointed and distraught today when I heard that Seattle got an expansion hockey team. And what did they call them?
The Krakens.
The Krakens.
The Krakens. Now, I thought the Cowboys wasn't that great, the Rangers wasn't that, but the Krakens, I mean, that's about the worst I've ever heard.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we hope they can at least win a couple of games this year.
It's
Anyway,
gonna take some getting used to.
it is going to take some getting used to. All right, ladies and
What
gentlemen.
about this outro?
This outro? Oh, man. Hey, we got something brand new from you that we did from the shoot. And we're going to leave this to you in just a second. But I do want to wish you guys a great rest of your week. Come check in with us next week. We have our new chief marketing.
CMO. Yeah,
Chief
Courtney.
marketing. Courtney
nice.
is going to be on, chief marketing officer. And what were you?
If anyone wanted to get a hold of you, Andre,
yeah, Andre. If anybody wanted to
Yes.
reach out to you and just learn more about your story and the opportunity, how would they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so the best way to reach out to me, I would always say, is by phone. So feel free to to reach out and give me a call. My direct cell phone number is 214-455-4802.
4802. And you'll put that in the comments, and then we'll share that and make sure
Absolutely.
everybody has it, right? Okay, folks. Thank you, Andre, again for
Thanks
being
for
on the
having me
show,
on.
man. Just unbelievable. All right. Trelvis, are we ready to let it roll?
We are.
Let's do it. All right, folks. Tune in to Cliff's Notes every Thursday at 1 o'clock Central for the tips, tricks, and tactics to explode your business. I guarantee it.